All right, we're so lucky to be joined today on FightHype by the heavyweight title contender, long-running Luis Ortiz, who has a very important fight September 4th at Crypto.com Arena, the former Staples Center in Los Angeles, headlining a pay-per-view on Fox against former heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz Jr. Huge fight, really definitely a fight that's going to leave the winner in position for another shot at the title. And the loser, who knows where they go. But let's start asking these questions of Luis right now. First of all, Luis, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for joining us as well, interpreter and associate Herman Caicedo.
My pleasure.
Great. Luis, what are your thoughts on this fight? Do you view it as this is like a make-or-break fight where the winner has a shot to get another crack at the title, and the loser maybe is going to be headed out of the game?
Luis, que si tú ves esta pelea como una pelea que rompe o hace carrera, y si usted piensa que el que pierde la pelea ya tiene que retirarse.
Esto es una pelea sumamente importante para ambos, porque esto es como casi una pelea de título. Pero sí, pienso que sí. O sea,
yeah, absolutely. He believes that the fight 1% is a make or break fight, Lance, and that the loser of the fight definitely is at the back of the pack, and for him, the back of the pack is no longer any good. So Ruiz might have a better shot if he loses, but for him, it's a very important fight, and losing is not an option.
I know that as you head into a fight like this, you can't even think about losing. But would it be fair to say that if you did lose this fight, you would probably retire, Luis? Are the stakes that high?
Que él sabe que obviamente preparando para la pelea, que ni se piensa de una derrota, pero que si por cualquier razón la situación es que usted pierde, que si es el retiramiento para usted.
A mí, por lo menos, por mi mente no ha pasado el retiro. Me siento en óptimas condiciones, me siento fuerte mentalmente, físicamente. Eso no cabe en mi mente.
Right now, that's not something that's even in his thought process, and that he feels younger and stronger than ever, physically and mentally. As far as what he's doing training-wise, he's been never training any better. He eats right, sleeps right, trains, and maintains and lives the lifestyle. So he's a 43-year-old young. So retirement, it's not even something that he's even considering. If he loses the fight, it probably goes on. So your answer is there.
Okay, great. Now, the question with Andy Ruiz Jr. has always been the level of motivation. Obviously, we saw when he had the opportunity to fight Anthony Joshua the first time, he was extremely motivated, came up with the fight of his life to really shock the world and win that fight. After that, he, loses to Joshua, looks terrible, packed on a lot of weight, and then joined with Eddie Reynoso to beat Chris Arreola. But now he's parted ways again with Eddie Reynoso. So what do you make of the motivation that Andy Ruiz Jr. carries into this fight?
Que la mayoría del problema de Andy Ruiz en su carrera completa, Luis, ha sido la motivación y la disciplina en mantener una carrera. Y lució con Joshua lo suficiente para ganar esa pelea, y después en la revancha lució malísimo, cambió de entrenador con Reynoso para ver si mejoraba, y después peleó con Arreola, ganó con Arreola, pero pasó trabajo. ¿Usted qué piensa de todo eso de Andy?
Nada, cada persona toma sus propias decisiones. Si la conllevan a bien o la conllevan a mal, es su problema. Mis pensamientos están en mí, y como siempre yo le he dicho a mi team, que yo hago lo que se termine siempre, lo que terminemos en nuestro trabajo.
He says, that's probably something that's on Andy. Maybe it's a thorn in his side, and he's got to deal with it, and he has to definitely, fix that issue. But at the end of the day, as far as he's concerned, Luis, he's 100% committed to this fight and every fight, both emotionally, physically, as far as training is concerned. Whatever we ask him to do, both myself and Yuka, he puts maximum effort into it. And if that is, what Andy has to deal with and overcome, that's on Andy.
Yes. Now, I remember we spent a lot of time, Luis, before you fought Deontay Wilder the last time. And let's be honest, you had that fight won. You were doing so well through the first half of the fight. Then Wilder came in with that big right hand and knocked you out. And I remember the scene of you in that ring, Luis, slamming your fist down on the rope, just so upset with what had transpired. What, in hindsight, looking back on that night, what got away from you that night, and how can you get back to, being that version of Luis Ortiz, who was basically on the brink of becoming heavyweight champion of the world?
Que él se recuerda viendo la segunda pelea con usted y Wilder, y usted dominando la pelea completa hasta que Wilder logró darte con el derechazo y acabó la pelea. Y él también se recuerda viéndote a ti bien desgustado, enojado, en la esquina, dándole golpes a las esquinas. ¿Qué es lo que usted piensa que se fue del plan? ¿Qué pasó en ese momento y en esa pelea de que derrotó eso? Porque en su mente, en la mente del periodista, él veía a usted ya ganando el título del mundo y ganándole a Wilder. ¿Qué fue lo que pasó? Y que si usted piensa que ahora usted puede regresar a ese nivel de dominar una pelea, pero no dejar fracasar lo que pasó.
Cada experiencia mala conlleva a que la segunda uno venga más preparado mentalmente. Entonces sucedió eso queda en una esquina, queda en el libro, pero no se deja de estudiar. Entonces no queremos que eso vuelva a suceder, y para eso King Kong entrena y más caso a la esquina, porque fue mucho más un fallo de no seguir instrucciones.
He says that everything is a learning experience, clearly and obviously. Each fight since he started boxing, he learns from. In that particular instance, to your question as to what happened, he lost a little focus and just completely disregarded the corners and my advice as far as what we were trying to do in that fight, and paid the ultimate price. But moving forward and obviously learning from that fight, he's going to focus a little bit more on the actual game plan and actually execute it in that fashion, so that it is what it is, and not try and deviate from that as much as he can. If I can add myself, Luis is a very smart fighter, so it's a back and forth. I trust a lot of what he is doing while he's doing it, and that is for the relationship that we have in the corner, which is it's a little bit back and forth. In that, unfortunately, he veered more towards his plan and away from the actual plan that we had that night, and paid the price. And unfortunately, so has, 40 of Wilder's opponents. So it's not necessarily just a fluke. I think
exactly.
It's safe to say that everyone has.
Well, and the fact that everyone's under the PBC umbrella. I mean, there was talk, I think, before this fight was made, that Andy Ruiz was going to fight Deontay Wilder. Do you think that the winner of this fight will meet Wilder, and then the winner of that would be right in position for that heavyweight title shot again? Is that what you're expecting to have? Has anyone told you that will happen in victory?
You're asking me or Luis?
Ask Luis first. Yeah.
Luis, que si usted piensa que el ganador de esta pelea es el que va a enfrentar a Deontay Wilder. Y que si usted cree que PBC está como
listo,
preparando eso.
Yo peleo con cualquiera. Como si tengo que pelear siempre y cuando Wilder decida volver a querer pelear. Peleamos hoy, mañana, pasado, y yo pienso que él sea igual, no diga que no. Pero yo soy un boxeador y los boxeadores no le dicen que no a boxeo. El verdadero boxeador no dice que no al boxeo.
So he's not 100% sure if that is what PBC.
Pero quiero pelear por título. Si es la posibilidad de volver a pelear por título.
Yeah.
Sea quien sea.
He's not 100% sure if PBC is lining that up, and that's what it looks like. If I had to guess, I would say probably, but you never know.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that Luis is someone, like he just said, that would fight anybody. He is a fighter, and a real old school fighter as far as who they ask him to fight is who he will fight and prepare to fight. He has a team around him that veers and steers the way of how it should go. But at the end of the day, if they tell him to fight tomorrow, Wilder 40 times every week, then it's going to be every week him and Wilder going at it. So he has no whatsoever, hang-ups about having to fight Wilder 3, 5, or 10 times. It's what he does for a living and what he will do until he can become heavyweight champion of the world, which is still his main focus and his driving force to all this.
Look, that belt that you almost won, the WBC belt, is now owned by Tyson Fury, but it appears as if Fury may have some issues in trying to get out of the UK. I think as a result of his links to Daniel Kinahan, and he's actually said he's retired, so that belt seems to be in limbo. What do you think is going to happen to Tyson Fury and with Tyson Fury?
La faja del WBC está como un poquito ahora en el aire con Tyson Fury teniendo el problema que tiene, que supuestamente no va a poder salir de Londres y también que dijo que está como retirado, está como en el aire la faja. ¿Usted qué piensa de eso y qué va a pasar con la faja?
Que deberían, que esa faja sería una buena oportunidad si él no va a pelear, de pelear Andy Ruiz, que sería una gran pelea por pelear por ese cinturón.
He said that if that's the case with the belt and the WBC, that the WBC should make the fight between Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz for the fight, for the heavyweight championship, and make Tyson Fury some kind of champion in recess, some kind of champion in trouble, some kind of champion in wherever he is. But he should not hold up the belt. It should be Andy Ruiz and Luis Ortiz for the championship belt.
Do you think there's a chance that will take place? Have you been told by anyone like Tom Brown or Al Heyman that they are going to petition for that to happen?
Que si usted cree que eso puede pasar, Luis, que la pelea de usted y Andy sería por el título mundial, ¿alguien te ha dicho que si va a ser así, el promotor, tu manager, alguien te ha dicho?
No, yo digo que al respecto a la situación de Tyson Fury, que está en proceso de retirarse, deberían de esa faja, de quitarla, y esto es una gran pelea.
No, that nobody has said anything to him. It's just his thoughts that if Tyson has already mentioned retirement, and now that there's this legal issue on top of it, that it would only make sense that the WBC be a little proactive and make the next best heavyweight fight for their title and make Tyson some kind of champion in recess or some kind of champion in holding or something like that, where it's not going to affect Tyson Fury in any way, shape, or form, but it gives the other two fighters and this particular matchup, a really good platform. So he would hope that would happen, but nobody has said anything to him.
Yeah, it's interesting as we head into this fight, Luis. Obviously, that's a thing that we got to keep our eyes on if they would ever consider doing that. But look, I've gone back and forth with some people on Twitter over this fight. I think this fight's going to be a real entertaining slugfest between you and Andy Ruiz. Can you give some thoughts about, just going at it with this guy and just, throwing the heavy leather at each other, and may the best man win and may the loser fall? Is that
Él dice que él piensa que esta pelea va a ser una tremenda pelea, y que ha discutido con gente en Twitter y que él dice que usted qué piensa sobre la pelea, cómo usted piensa que va a ser la pelea y que si le puede dar algunos detalles de algún tipo de plan de usted en la pelea.
Bueno, estas manos me hablan todos los días cuando voy al gimnasio y están listas y no tienen, dicen que ellas no van a perder. Mi mente tampoco. Así que yo voy a 150% a mí.
His fists and his brain speak to him every day when he goes to the gym, he says, and there's no losing and definitely no quitting in him. So, you know, the fight is going to be however you can dream it up to be in your head, but he's not losing 100%. He's not going to lose. So with that being said, that kind of can explain the fight to you a little bit of how he feels about it.
Do you look at, like, just a couple more things, Luis? I really appreciate your time. Do you look at George Foreman as someone who's like a real role model for you, especially now that you're in your 40s, well into your 40s, and trying to duplicate what he did?
Que si usted mira a George Foreman, que ganó el campeonato del mundo a los 45 años, que si usted lo mira ahora teniendo la edad suya en los 40, que si lo miras como algún tipo de figura, de
bueno,
inspiración.
Yo veo muchas de sus peleas porque me toca tener que mirar a boxeadores de esa edad como Larry Holmes, que fueron boxeadores que definitivamente entrenaron, hicieron su trabajo. Entonces, para poder lograr hacer ese trabajo, uno tiene que entrenar a la cuarta vez de lo que entrenaba antes. Y eso hago yo. Entreno fuerte todos los días, al triple.
He says that, yes, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, some of these older fighters that fought into their 40s are definitely an inspiration for him, more so as a learning tool than an inspiration at all, because he doesn't quite necessarily feel the same way they might have felt in their 40s, like they're really on their last leg. Lewis doesn't feel that way at his age right now at 42, 43. But he does see the inspiration in them winning championships in that age when back then was obviously considered extremely old to be fighting. But what he realizes is that what they all had in common is that they have to train, not only train a little bit harder, but definitely a lot smarter. So instead of just, you know, going at it like a young buck, it's, yes, you have to train twice as hard, maybe 3 times as hard. You have to do things differently as far as the lifestyle is concerned. You can't get away with a lot of things that you could when you were 20, but it's about being smarter. And that's what he's really picked up, he said, from some of these guys like Ray Mercer, Larry Holmes, George Foreman, you know, and so, and you know, he definitely is a student also of the game. So that's an important scenario to have when you reach that. So age is obviously something that is lost on the youth, right? So, so you know, it's coming into play at this part. So let's see how the young buck feels about all this.
Great. Well, I think a lot of people are excited about this fight, Luis. I really appreciate your time. Again, it's going to be September 4th, Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. Tickets are on sale now. They actually start today at Axis.com and at the Crypto.com Arena box office. The undercard includes Isak Pitbull Cruz versus Eduardo Ramirez, and then also the return of the former 3-division champion Abner Mares versus Miguel Flores. So thank you again for your time, Luis. Really appreciate it. Good luck training, and we'll see you out here in Los Angeles soon.
Appreciate it.
Take care of yourself, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you, Lance.